the speed of increasing time by 100 times or decreasing it was upgraded. In addition, the ability to purchase time also increased. Suddenly a thought appeared in his head. Perhaps he could entrust others to buy time for him. That would be very interesting. So Mr. Lee decided to find some suitable people to try. He called them from different places and met many different people. Who knows, there might be more miracles and opportunities. Mr. Lee was very hopeful about this. Then Mr. Lee went to the longevity laboratory of Headhunter Company and sent a woman over. She was the senior advisor that Mr. Lee was looking for. Mr. Lee welcomed her. "I've heard about you for a long time, let's sit down and talk." Seeing such a young Mr. Lee, Tranqua was shocked, but she still calmly asked, "Does your nano-sized physics laboratory need research specialists?" Mr. Lee said yes. "In addition to this laboratory, I also have a pharmaceutical company and many other entrusted businesses as well. This time I need physics talents, high-level talents in the new material list, doctoral level or higher education. Moreover, there have been magazines or articles about nuclear particles." Knowing that Mr. Lee has so many companies like this, Tranqua thought to herself, "How come I've never heard of such a talented person before? Anyway, as long as there's money, there are no talents that I can't find." Then Tranqua pushed her glasses up and said, "Okay, Mr. Lee, I understand, but surely you know whether recruitment is successful or not. The most important factor is whether your side has attractive conditions for talents or not. Moreover, the talents in the field you need are all high-income groups." Mr. Lee thought for a while. "I don't have much experience in this area, so you decide." Hearing Mr. Lee say this, Tranqua was startled. "Boss Lee, don't joke." Mr. Lee said, "I'm serious. You are the recruiter, so you know what salary can recruit talents, so you decide." "I agree with everything." After hearing this, Tranqua was stunned. There is such a boss in this world who doesn't calculate money. She has met many rich people, but someone as easygoing as him is the first time. Unlike her boss, she is stingy and oppresses her every day. At this point, Mr. Lee asked Ms. Tran, "Do you have any questions about the conditions I have proposed?" Tran shook her head. Seeing this, Mr. Lee said, "So Ms. Tran, when can you come to my workplace? As far as I know, you are working in a reputable company, but your boss oppresses you every day and wants to exploit your labor. Why waste your youth there?" Hearing Mr. Lee say this, Tran suddenly realized something. It turns out that the first person to be recruited today was herself. Tran helplessly said, "Boss Lee, to be honest, in my profession, I value confidentiality agreements very much. Although I have long intended to change jobs, there is a penalty." After listening, Mr. Lee laughed and said, "You don't need to worry about this. With my current relationships and capabilities, I can take care of you. Moreover, in the near future, I may need a large number of talents in all fields. I value recruitment very much. If Ms. Tran can lead it, I will be very happy." Hearing this, Tran nodded and said, "I understand." Then she directly called him boss. Mr. Lee was very satisfied and said, "This is the most successful decision in your life." Tran said, "Today I will go through the resignation procedures." Then the two shook hands and said, "Let's have a happy cooperation." Looking at Tran's departure, Mr. Lee planned to explore his ability to accelerate time next. What would it be like if it increased 1,000 times? At this time, Manhwa brought a watch to him and said, "What you need is here." Mr. Lee looked at the watch, and "Now let me try what effect the upgraded time ability will bring after 1,000 years of life." Then Mr. Lee started his ability to accelerate time by 1,000 times as he thought. The big clock was still as usual and stable in a different time. Now that there is progress in the field of accelerating time by 1,000 times, I can do more. Then Mr. Lee stopped the experiment. Manhwa thought Mr. Lee was about to start when Mr. Lee turned his head and smiled and said, "Actually, I have finished the experiment." Hearing Mr. Lee say this, Manhwa was startled. "I didn't notice anything." Mr. Lee explained, "This is accelerating time by 1,000 times, which is 10 times faster than your previous experiment." It seems that your speed of 100 times has also been upgraded in the future. Hearing this, Manhwa couldn't believe it. Can it be faster? Time increase of 100 times increase can make me destroy everything already if it's 1000 times. Isn't that invincible? Mr. Lee planned to do another experiment next, which was to reduce time by 1000 times. Before starting, he reminded Manhwa that it would be best for him to step back a bit. Manhwa retreated tens of meters away, and Mr. Lee was speechless. It's really an extremist. Then he started his ability, reduced the speed of time by 1000 times, and successfully opened up the next time range. He had to see its stability first. A few minutes later, the clock shook violently, and Mr. Lee felt an abnormal bang. The clock shattered and flew towards Manhwa. Mr. Lee panicked. Fortunately, Manhwa dodged quickly. Mr. Lee thought about what had just happened. According to reason, the clock should stop. But unexpectedly, the face of the clock became a unique thing. In the end, why? The Earth's self-rotation speed is 300 to 400 meters per second, but when the speed of time is reduced by 1000 times, it is almost equivalent to a speed of 3,000 to 4,000 meters per second. The original state of the clock has not changed at all. In the end, the problem lies with the pendulum. The pendulum itself is something hanging in the air and is controlled by the external time speed. It is a part completely separate from the clock. After reducing the speed of time, because the speed of the two types of time is different, the pendulum has turned into a bullet. This means that if that object is deeply embedded in the ground, then time will not change its state. But if that object is suspended under reduced time conditions, it will explode. This is the power of time and space, and it must be utilized. After experimenting with increasing and decreasing time, the first thing Mr. Lee did was go to the boxing training room of the club. Want to increase Manhwa's normal state time speed by 100 times? Manhwa was incredulous and asked, "Are you serious? He's hanging now, can he fight back against me?" Then Manhwa wanted Luke to replace him. Manhwa had no choice but to rush up. As soon as he rushed up, he used his ultimate move, Black Tiger Heart Plucking. Then he kicked with a divine palm but was all but avoided by Luke. Mr. Lee was very dissatisfied with Manhwa's performance. "Do you want to be cut off from medicine?" Seeing Mr. Lee angry, Manhwa started to get serious again. Luke smirked when he saw this. A second later, Manhwa's face was punched. Manhwa had no strength to fight back and could only endure continuous beatings. Mr. Lee watched their fight and thought to himself, "For ordinary people, increasing time speed by 100 times can hide anywhere, but for professionally trained people like Manhwa, even if they can't beat time, they can still vaguely guess the opponent's actions. If in the future they encounter people of this level, even if their movements are guessed by the opponent, their variables are very small." Mr. Lee didn't care about whether he had an advantage or not, what he cared about was comprehensive oppression. Then Mr. Lee increased Manhwa's time speed by 1000 times. Luke was amazed when he saw this scene. Now Manhwa's appearance in his eyes was like this. Manhwa disappeared in a blink of an eye. Luke jumped up in shock. Then countless shadows passed by and hit Luke before he could react. Mr. Lee was very satisfied. Luke was confused. "My time speed has increased 100 times already and I can't even see a shadow." At this moment, Manhwa appeared behind him. Luke turned his head but saw nothing at all. Mr. Lee thought that increasing time speed by 1000 times was indeed very powerful. Although Luke also had his time speed increased, 0 to 100 and 100 to 1000 are not on the same level. Facing Manhwa, Luke had no chance to react. Mr. Lee was very satisfied. At this moment Manhwa came next to Luke. Luke also realized something. Manhwa used his life-saving move. Then there was a miserable cry in the training room. Manhwa's face swelled up. At this moment Mr. Lee asked Trong Luke, "Do you know anyone? Help me set up a team." Hearing Mr. Lee say this, Trong Luke guessed something Mr. Lee said rightly. "I want to build a small fast-paced team." The scene shifted to a bar where several men were talking outside when the bar security guard came out with a bag of trash. "Bald guys, I'm holding dirty stuff here, please make way." The man heard this and said, "Know yourself, know me, go away." Then security passed them, but then the woman said he touched her, but the man heard this and got very angry. "Dare to touch my person." He went up first, grabbed the security guard, and was about to make a move. The security guard said, "I'm not afraid." But the man didn't listen and slapped him. Everyone rushed to beat him. The security guard was beaten, his body full of wounds. At this point, the boss ran out. "This man is following me and not abiding by the rules. I have disciplined him for you. But this guy is still very stubborn." The boss saw this and started cursing. "Prince 9, what are you doing? If it weren't for seeing you as cheap, I would have fired you. Come here quickly, apologize quickly. If you don't make him less angry in the future, don't come to work anymore." Hearing this, Prince 9 glared at them. Then he picked up a fruit from the ground and smashed it directly on his head. The man was dumbfounded when he saw this. Prince 9 said, "I'm sorry." After the bald man finished speaking, he smashed the fruit on his head again. The man was scared when he saw Prince 9 about to do it again. He was frightened and stopped. Prince 9 coldly looked at them. Everything that happened just now was seen by Manhwa and Trong Luke. Seeing him so fierce, they decided to invite him to join Mr. Lee's speed team. To invite this person into the team, Manhwa and Trong Luke took him to a restaurant. After eating and drinking merrily, Prince 9 leaned on the sofa and said, "I have no money and am not interested in men. What do you guys want from me in the end?" Trong Luke laughed and said, "Prince 9, you were originally an excellent student of Coach Tong. How did you end up like this?" Hearing Trong Luke knew Coach Tong, little Prince was excited. Trong Luke continued to say, "He often mentions you, saying that you are very talented in boxing, but what about later?" Little Prince bowed his head and said, "Later on, I said something wrong that hurt Coach Tong. When I was very young, my parents had passed away, and the shared people in the village always bullied me. Later on, I gradually realized that those who often bullied me did not have as strong fists as me. I started fighting continuously, thinking that only by making them afraid of me could I have value in existence. Then Coach Tong came to my village to find talented people. Then I knew that boxing could also help people succeed. Coach Tong trained us to become boxing champions. Besides practicing cruel lessons, we also had to learn how to think. That is the appearance a champion should have." Later on, Coach mobilized all relationships and organized many performance competitions for us with the purpose of letting us accumulate experience. After we had some fame, some tabloids started writing false things. They said Coach Tong forced orphans to box for money. Before a performance one day, those reporters took advantage of the opportunity to make up words. I was provoked, so I said something I shouldn't have. From the beginning I was a fool without a brain, so I voluntarily left the team. It's me who's not worthy. After hearing all this, Manhwa felt that he was very similar to himself. At this moment Trong Luke asked, "What are your plans for later?" Little Prince said, "I have no education and don't know many people, just want to earn some money to support my family." Hearing his answer, Trong Luke stood up and said, "We want to give you a new job, but we have to see your guts first." Then 3 people went to the beach. Hearing that they had to fight, Little Prince reminded Manhwa, "Regardless, I am a person in this field. Do you really want to fight me?" Upon hearing this, he laughed and said, "If you are Master Tong's favorite student, then I will give you 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, if you can't knock me down, I will deal with you." Zhang Lu started the countdown. The young king turned around, preparing to make his move. However, he was met with a punch from Manhwa. He barely managed to dodge this move, but was stunned afterwards. Only after 4 seconds, the young king was knocked down by Manhwa. The young king couldn't believe it and said, "How is this speed possible?" At this point, Manhwa looked at him, thinking that 10 seconds was a bit too much. Too weak, the young king stood up and said, "Who are you guys after all?" Zhang Lu replied, "We are not here to fulfill your dream, but to give you a choice. Will you continue to grope around to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion, or will you join a greater organization with us? I will give you 5 seconds to choose in the club's training room." As per Mr. Li's request, Zhang Lu had gathered enough members for the speed team. Mr. Li came over and praised him. Everyone looked very robust. At this point, Zhang Lu said, "As per your request, they are all healthy orphans." Mr. Li was very satisfied. Then he said to Manhwa, "Follow my instructions. Take them to get groomed so they can enjoy some privileges that members of the speed team get after receiving orders from Mr. Li." Manhwa took them to a spa for them to enjoy. Everyone was shocked at the sight. Manhwa said, "What's there to be tense about? If I brought you here, just relax and go in. As long as you work for Mr. Lu, this is what you should have." At this point, a man said, "I've seen this place in videos before. I heard it costs about 10,000 NDT per hour." The man wondered, "Why is such a good place empty?" Manhwa replied, "This place has been booked out completely, everyone is just having fun." Then Manhwa and Zhang Lu went to a sauna. Manhwa was puzzled and didn't know why Mr. Li had called them here. Zhang Lu explained, "Mr. Li wants them to see these luxuries. Those with ambition will be exposed and they won't be able to turn back." For 7 consecutive days, they were also given gourmet food with the purpose of letting them understand that as long as they follow Mr. Li, their fate will change as if facing this luxurious life. Every day, the young king persisted in training while his teammates ate and drank merrily every day. At this point, Mr. Li summoned them. Manhwa and Zhang Lu were speechless because only the young king came first while others rushed over later. Zhang Lu looked at them and asked, "In these past few days, have you ever thought about what the next job is?" The young king loudly replied, "We have to fight now." At this point Mr. Li came out and said, "Well said, kid, very smart. So you must know that joining the club is not an easy thing. You will have to go through the most brutal training and only the strong will be recognized by the club. So to put it precisely, right now I am still not your boss. Our training will forge you into real strong people. From now on, you will be arranged according to your potential. The person with the highest potential is number 1, and the lowest is number 12. Looking at the luxurious and leisurely life behind you, that is the reward you will get when you are recognized. Of course, the lower the ranking, the fewer resources you get. Anyone who ranks 12th after 3 consecutive tests will be replaced by a newcomer. If you want more, you have to work harder than others. You are comrades but also enemies of each other. Although the test is fierce, I will let you reach the peak of wealth. Here are 12 contracts for you to sign. The training will officially begin. I want to remind you that once the contract takes effect, your lives will no longer belong to you. Of course, I will not force you. Now you still have a chance to choose. This villa will continue to be open for 7 days. Even if you don't accept this job, you can still live here for a few more days. But after 7 days, you will return to your original world, return to the life arranged for you by God, or you want to take a risk to change your fate. If you have made a decision, sign the contract and then get on the Kia bus. Everyone thinks carefully and then gets on the bus to find me because for secret training, Mr. Li has gone to a beach where Robert is sunbathing. At this time, Damien Knock asked him, "Do you see him anywhere?" Robert said, "At the usual place." Damien Knock was shocked. These people have to complete several months of training every day. Time is of course very important, but for Mr. Li, he can't let go of a second. At this time someone discovered something unusual. Why does it feel like a long day? Moreover, there is only sunlight shining on top of the head, and there is a dark piece opposite. It seems that I am in a very unusual organization. Mr. Lee was very satisfied with their adaptability. It's time for the test, then Mr. Lee resolved to speed up time. Everyone was suspicious, Mr. Lee explained. It's been hard for everyone these days. These days, everyone has completed a year's training. Hearing Mr. Lee say this, everyone was shocked. Indeed, it was so. I felt different already. Mr. Lee continued. You must have discovered these days that our strength is not something that can be explained in the ordinary world. In the future, each of you will become an excellent soldier in one field, travel around the world to perform tasks and face dangers that may see blood or even death. But in return are unimaginable rewards and opportunities for development. But before that, you have to train your strong will and understand that I have the right to kill you as a person who knows how to seize opportunities. This is my last word for you. The young king was the first to stand up. Mr. Lee was very satisfied. Then, one by one, they stood up because they knew if they gave up here, perhaps this life would be difficult to turn over again. If they couldn't do anything, why not bet on one last game? Everyone decided not to go back anymore, go through time-accelerated training. Mr. Lee's secret team is initially formed, now it is necessary to test their abilities. Then, Robert took out 3 lists. True Dai-hoa, 46 years old, is a businessman abroad. Vong Hai, 40 years old, has been active in Somalia for a long time and was once a special forces soldier with mercenary experience. Ho Bao Tian, 46 years old, is a generous and comfortable person who has undertaken espionage missions for the black market. These 3 people are the targets of this mission. They must quickly approach them and then bring them back to base. Mr. Lee divided the 12 people into 2 teams, with Ban Hao and Zhang Lu as team leaders. At the same time, he instructed them to act decisively and quickly when acting and not to attract the attention of the 3 targets. The team that catches more targets will receive Mr. Lee's reward later. Then, Mr. Lee spoke privately with Ban Hao. This mission is a test for the secret team, and it is also a comparison of strength between you and Zhang Lu. Zhang Lu is a good military instructor, but I don't want everyone to be trained by him. It's not a problem for one person to hold everyone's power. But from my perspective, I want this responsibility to belong to the core members I trust. This opportunity is for you to see if you have leadership potential. This test is not only aimed at them but also at you. So Ban Hao must win. You treat it as a new mission because it does not disappoint Mr. Lee's expectations. Ban Hao quickly found the first target. True Dai-hoa was working in Africa. Ban Hao noticed a black man following him, not simply because he couldn't break free from the jungle movement. He decided to observe first, but was still discovered by the black man. Ban Hao ordered his subordinates to ambush according to plan. On the way to the airport where the target was going, there were our people everywhere, and they could cast their nets at any time. Their car had very strong features and they had to complete their tasks. On the way to the airport, True Dai-hoa's car suddenly stopped. Ban Hao was suspicious because it was currently green light. Could it be discovered? The moment the red light came on, the black man suddenly accelerated and passed by, leaving Ban Hao's control range. Ban Hao called Xiao Wang to chase him immediately. He climbed onto the roof of the car and prepared for a frontal attack. He must catch this big fish. Then Ban Hao called Xiao Wang to step on the accelerator to the lowest point, and teams 1 and 2 arrived. Ban Hao seized the opportunity and jumped onto the car in front of him and stabbed his knife into the roof of the car. Seeing this, True Dai-hoa panicked. Then Ban Hao smashed into the car window from inside the car. Ban Hao's first mission was completed. On the other hand, Ho Bao Tian panicked and fled, constantly looking back and seeing no one. He thought he had escaped but was later caught again. Zhang Lu immediately drove over and pulled him up in his car. Zhang Lu said, "The mission is complete now. The score is 1 divided by 0. Ban Hao coldly said sorry, making him disappointed. then the correct score should be 101. So that last mercenary is who decides victory or defeat. Then True Dai Hoa and Ho Bao Tian were taken to the club where they were forced to bow their heads down. Mr. Li said, "Welcome both of you to my longevity club. I am your host here. You can call me Mr. Li." The two heard about the longevity club, then suspicious Mr. Li continued, "The purpose of inviting both of you here is to ask both of you to do this business." Hearing about business, Ho Bao Tian got angry. "Is there anyone at home who ties people up and invites them to do business?" And your subordinate, as soon as he arrived, slapped me. Look at what my face has been beaten into. When he saw True Dai Hoa safe and sound next to him, he was even more angry. Damn it, we were all kidnapped but still treated differently. Mr. Li was speechless. It must have been done by Zhang Lu. Then, Mr. Li said, "Mr. Tiger, I apologize to you, but a person who is always smooth and city-s like you, and has the ability to escape supernaturally. It takes a little bit of force to suppress you. This subordinate of mine is very afraid of you, and you are doing something that affects your spirit, so he did that." Hearing Mr. Li say that, Ho Bao Tian thought they had investigated him for a long time. True Dai Hoa next to him said, "Mr. Li, I am just a small businessman, there must be some misunderstanding." Mr. Li laughed and said, "Mr. True, you usually do business in Africa, but you are the richest businessman in country L. It is said that you have a very good relationship with the king in general in country L. In short, you don't look like a small businessman at all." Ho Bao Tian angrily said, "What nonsense are you talking about? What do you want to do now?" Mr. Li showed a sharp look in his eyes, scaring the two of them. What is this feeling of oppression? Clearly he is younger than me, but Mr. Li wants to entrust two people to him to buy time for himself. Just now, Mr. Li showed a sharp look in his eyes. Ho Bao Tian, who was arrogant just now, immediately became scared and said, "At least you should let us go, right?" Hearing this, Mr. Li waved his hand to signal his subordinates to untie them, then he took out 2 time purchase trust contracts and said, "This matter is dangerous and the benefits are also great. Look at the words on the contract." The two looked incredulous. True Dai Hoa sweated and said, "Mr. Li, are you joking?" Mr. Li stood up and said, "It's okay, ordinary people always have this reaction. Anyway, I didn't believe it at first either. But you will quickly eliminate your anxiety. Anyway, I've tried this method before." He finished speaking. Mr. Li demonstrated his ability, causing time around him to stop, then let the remaining lifespan of the two appear. When the two saw their lifespan, they believed right away. True Dai Hoa thought, "This person can also buy time within. If we accept his trust, will we also be able to have this superpower?" Thinking about it, True Dai Hoa showed an excited expression. At this time, Ho Bao Tian asked, "So you want us to use our relationship to buy time for you?" Mr. Li said, "Exactly." Ho Bao Tian continued, "So what benefits do we get?" Mr. Li smiled back, "Let their lifespan appear again." Seeing this, Ho Bao Tian said, "I understand both of us have accepted Mr. Li's trust." True Dai Hoa couldn't wait to ask the boss, "What else do we need to know when we start?" Mr. Li laughed and said, "Don't rush, both of you. We still have one more trustee who hasn't arrived yet. This person is likely to be a hot item. Over here, Zhang Lu found the target first. He is the famous Van Hai in Somalia who has experience as a mercenary." Van Hai detected danger, but he didn't run away immediately but left as if nothing had happened. Zhang Lu breathed a sigh of relief, then ordered his younger brother, "Don't relax your vigilance, just follow the plan." At this time, Ban Hao had arrived. The younger brother saw it and reported it to Ban's elder brother. "It has started, shall we act now?" Zhang Lu said, "This kid acts fast, but in the end he is still one step slower than me. All listen to my command, we must win this mission. Listen to my command, start encircling." Upon receiving the order, everyone began to surround themselves. Van Hai was holding a bowl of goat soup. Zhang Lu's subordinate was about to make a move on Van Hai, taking out a bowl of spicy goat soup and splashing it on them. They were so spicy that they knelt on the ground, and Van Hai immediately ran away. Zhang Lu was sweating profusely and reported to Team 2 to act immediately. At this time, Ben Hao was standing high watching their actions. Xiao Wang said, "Teacher Zhang has started, shall we go too?" Ben Hao said, "Not in a hurry, we are one step behind. If we go now, we won't be able to fight them, even though Van Hai still doesn't know about our existence. We are one step behind. If we go now, we won't be able to beat them, even though Van Hai still doesn't know about our existence. The closer Chuang chases, the more advantageous it is for us." So Ban Hao is preparing to wait and then catch them all at once. The barefoot man ran away on familiar ground. This made Chuang Luke, who was chasing him, feel uncomfortable. Ban Hao stood on the high ground watching their actions. He was not in a hurry because Ban Hao understood that a hard fight would not be beneficial. At this time, Van Hai also did not know about their existence. The closer Chuang Luke chases, the more advantageous it is for them. By letting Chuang Luke go first, he will wait until there is almost a result before making a move. At this time, Van Hai was running away and was blocked by Chuang Luke. Both sides were full of hostility as the battle was about to break out. Van Hai let out a cold laugh, ducked to avoid a punch from Chuang Luke, then took advantage of the situation to slip past Chuang Luke. Before Chuang Luke could react, Van Hai had jumped away and disappeared before his eyes. Chuang Luke was played for a fool, gritted his teeth in anger, and ordered his subordinates to chase after him quickly. Van Hai was running away, he couldn't understand who was targeting him. Clearly he had been living very secretly, even using a fake identity, but catching him was not an easy task. He chose to stay here because it was very chaotic in his territory. He was confident that it would be impossible for Chuang Luke to catch him, but what happened next was like a slap in his face. He saw that he was about to be caught by 4 people. Van Hai seemed like a snake performing for them, showing them what is called golden meditation escape. Before they could react, Van Hai had run away. At this time, Ban Hao's group member Wang Zijiu suddenly appeared on the floor above. He mocked the other group for being useless and someone's strategy being too useless. So many people couldn't catch one person. He had told them that they should practice more normally, didn't they see how tired he was? Facing Wang Zijiu's strange mockery, they certainly did not accept it. But Wang Zijiu came here not to watch their comedy show but to thank them for exhausting the prey. Then Wang Zijiu raised one hand up and Ban Hao's member immediately appeared and threw down a bucket of sugar water as a thank you gift. Van Hai had run over there and was out of breath. For the first time he encountered such persistent pursuers. If there were any more he wouldn't be able to stand it anymore. When he thought that escaping from this alley would make him safe, who would have thought it turned out to be a dead end? He couldn't believe it. Clearly there was still a road yesterday, but now there were shadows chasing from behind. Chuang Luke rushed over like a ferocious bear, which made him wide-eyed. When Chuang Luke was about to succeed, Ban Hao suddenly appeared in front of Chuang Luke. Van Hai saw these 2 people staring at him. He felt that these 2 people were not humans but beasts with such momentum as if they were going to fight to the death. No, it should be life or death instead. Just by looking at them, Van Hai's legs lost control and went limp. Now he didn't want to run anymore. The battle between Ban Hao and Chuang Luke also had a winner and loser. This time Ban Hao won. Mr. Li looked at the mercenary and wondered, "Huh? Why did you bring me here without saying anything?" Then he said, "Are you the manager here? I'm still wondering who has the guts to come to this country and kidnap people. How old are you this year? 20? You haven't even cleaned your nose yet." Seeing this, Ban Hao said, "Do you want to eat soap? Show some respect for me." He was scared, with soap in his mouth. "Can soap be eaten?" Mr. Li finally spoke. "It's okay, Mr. Vang was originally safe and sound, and it's natural for him to resist when we invite him over." "I think the opposite is true, boss. This time your people really started too heavy." Mr. Li could only smile. "Oh, That's right. Who won between the two of you? Chuang Luke spoke. It's a pity that this kid has a bit of affection. But I think it's more appropriate to say that it's a favor on the way. Brother Chuang, your people didn't catch him, on the contrary, quite a few people ran away. Vang Hai saw the two of them arguing and thought, are they competing like this and I am the competition item? Okay, stop arguing. If Banhao has won this competition, then he will also receive my reward. Just for a reward? What is the value of the reward that has to be so costly? Banhao bowed his head in front of Mr. Li. Mr. Li reached out his hand and gave Banhao longevity, which made the mercenary open his eyes wide and open his mouth. Banhao's body was trembling, and the two of them couldn't believe what they saw before their eyes. The light shone all over the room. Banhao gradually recovered, and his remaining lifespan had been increased by 5 years. The light shone all over the room. Banhao gradually recovered. His remaining lifespan had been increased by 5 years. Banhao was panting heavily and felt it. Thank you, sir. What? Is that the life of that guy? At this time Mr. Li turned around and saw Mr. Vaughn. He was scared and crawled to a corner of the cabinet, sweating profusely. It was then that he realized his actions. This time you secretly returned to your country to escape from your enemy's pursuit, right? According to my intelligence, your enemy is indeed diverse, but what is interesting is that all your actions have been exposed by someone called a brother, like a sieve. He couldn't believe it. Hey, our feelings are beyond life. When I and my brothers were abroad, shoulder to shoulder, you guys were still protein chains in the old man's body. It's not wrong to say that the longevity club is indeed very young, but I can guarantee that our team is absolutely loyal to each other and there will be no betrayal. A mercenary who rolls around in chaotic areas all year round is forced to return to a peaceful area and roll around in such poor and chaotic places. Do you really want to live a homeless life and evade enemies? Haha, what if it can't be like that? Is it like they are dogs for you? Damn, it's not good. Banhao angrily took out a knife and threw it straight at him. He closed his eyes and sweat but didn't feel anything. He opened one eye and found that the knife was hanging in front of him. He was startled. It turned out that Mr. Li had slowed down the knife before it pierced his face straightly. Mr. Li stepped forward, took the knife, then lifted it up. Whatever needed to be said had been said. Whether to go or stay was up to him. That was the last time I asked for your opinion. He thought to himself, unimaginable power, unbreakable faith, terrifying intelligence network, resourceful resources. This person might really make me come back again. Let's take a risk. The old man ran clumsily out and said to Damien Knock, Little Dam you finally came here, old man you got up early. The kitchen is preparing breakfast for you. Didn't eat anything yesterday or let me wait for you to finish speaking? The old man turned back and said, Can the car go now? That's great, then let's go. Old man, or should I call someone to come to the kitchen? Little Dam this matter cannot be delayed. I need to meet Mr. Li quickly. Yes, I understand. Mr. Li stood on a large rock looking at something far away. But he was thinking, with these 3 people, the pressure of work, the acquisition of time would certainly take less effort. It's just a pity that the physical strength of these 2 people really makes one worry a bit. Although they don't fight independently, when facing danger, they still need to have self-defense capabilities. After all, they will have to go all over the world to acquire time. Even if it's me, it's out of reach for Mr. Li. Old man, have you been looking for me for a long time? Mr. Li felt that Dr. The looked weak when he saw Mr. Li. The life plan project has made progress, Dr. The said when he got home. Fortunately, there is Mr. Li who has fixed the space accelerator in the laboratory, and our progress is also 10 times faster. I accidentally discovered a new variant among hundreds of millions of mutant viruses. A is called A2. I have injected A2 into the experiment, and the rejection reaction of the white mouse has significantly reduced. We have approached two directions at the same time. On one hand, we constantly reduce the rejection of A2. On the other hand, we constantly stimulate the white mouse to enhance the resistance of the white mouse to A2. Just one day ago, it was only after injecting A2 that the newly born mouse was completely alive. Checking its vital signs far exceeds the population value of them. Strength, speed, reaction ability, even the intelligence aspect has evolved. This white mouse, I named it Miracle. To achieve this research result, we have done countless experiments and used tens of thousands of white mice. Fortunately, we have finally succeeded to some extent now. But this mouse seems to have a bit of a violent tendency. Violent? That's why I came to find you personally. The old man looked worried. You're worried that if the project moves on to the next phase in its current state? Yes, mister, exactly. Then the next phase might involve experiments on humans. On humans, right, mister? Experiments on human bodies are not a joke. I want to apply for build a level 3 biological laboratory to observe and record the situation of a 2 experiment under acceleration, time and harsh environment conditions. Perhaps that is safer. Old man, you should know that for any request from you, I will respond. What are you hesitating about not speaking directly? Previously, I had never done such dangerous experiments on human bodies before. This is an ethical issue, haha, indeed it is, old man. You are the person with noble character that I admire most, no one can compare with you. But you don't need to worry about this. After all, there will naturally be many fish that slip through the net in this world, right? Those who hide in darkness outside the law. For Mr. Lee's ability, I have no doubt, of course. It's just old man, my original promise to you will never change. At the same time, I can also assure you that those bad guys who are about to be experimented on are absolutely voluntary. Mister, here's the data in front of you. These are targets that I have compiled so far according to your requirements. These are all parts from scum involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, smuggling. There are also professional scams which are quite diverse. These guys mostly hide in places where there are wars and chaos outside the law for at least 10 years. Mister, did I dig too deep? If it's inconvenient to start, then I still have other reserves nowhere else. Send these materials to the Justice League team for them to escort clients to trade places which is convenient for them to practice their hands. What do you think, mister? Just give orders now. Now my hands are very itchy here. If you're so anxious, then leave this matter to me. Upon hearing this, Truong Luke immediately stood up and said, Yes, sir, I'll go prepare now. Then, he turned to tease Bang Hao, How, be good at home. When I return, I'll bring back some tangerines for you to eat. Bang Hao, you're not ordinary either. Wipe your nose and be careful when going down the stairs. Don't fall and die, you rascal. At this point, Mr. Lee spoke up. Bang Hao, come here and listen to the sir. You've understood the training process of the Eagle team during this period, haven't you? Yes, I have carefully observed every step of the instructor and also taken notes for study. So, are you confident that after summoning a new group of people, you will train another hidden team, the Bang Hao hidden team? Bang Hao was stunned for a moment before saying, I understand. Rest assured and leave it to me. Very good, sir. Are you two done talking? I feel like you should look at this. Mr. Lee asked curiously, What is this? Robert replied based on the examination of global human databases that there is an extremely talented ecologist in the East. His name is Hao Chao Min, 89 years old, a Chinese plant ecologist and one of the founders of Chinese plant ecology and global botany. In his early years, he participated in researching the relationship between plants and land. His views on plant indicators and zoning or plant classification are presented based on extensive surveys. According to this view, famous ecologist Xu Ka considered him as a representative figure of land ecology. This is the ecological talent that you have always been looking for. And this old gentleman is not inferior to Dr. The at all. He's a level 10 talent. Mr. Lee looked through his videos. Seeing this, Manhwa was also curious and peeked over. At this point, Mr. Lee immediately stood up. When Dr. The finished watching those videos, he also had to exclaim. This old How is so old but still like a child, ha. On the contrary, I feel like creating a new world needs a pure talent who still retains that passion. So let me show old How a bit of an even more magical scene. Mr. Lee took out his time acceleration watch and metamorphosed the cicada, causing the old man to be startled and fall over, dropping his live-streaming phone in shock. Impossible. How could a cicada complete its metamorphosis in such a short time? Could it be a new species? It's unbelievable. At this point Tang spoke up. Old How has aged so much already. A fall like that should not be taken lightly. Who are you? Why do you look so familiar? Are you Dr. The? It can't be him. Could it be Tang's descendant? If cicadas can molt and be reborn, then why can't humans? As far as I can see, everything in this world can live forever. He doesn't believe it. That's absurd. You're not my anti-fan, are you? Look at the cicada behind you and you'll understand. Old How turned around to Mr. Lee, who slowed down time by 100 times, then reversed time, making the cicada return to its original state. He was surprised, which made his sleek black hair stand on end. Is it a time reversal? He turned his head to look at the cicada again. Impossible. Mr. Lee smugly said, it's just a little skill, that's all. Making you laugh at my life, which has never seen such an illogical biological crack before. In the end, what did you do? You can call me Mr. Lee. I am a time merchant. A time merchant, huh? Time can be bought and sold? So how do you trade it? What is time measured by? This is a physical unit realm. I have to go back and study it carefully. Mr. Lee was also speechless with him. Dr. The was not as calm as he was. He shouted, Hey, bookworm, don't you understand yet? Don't you recognize who I am? Are you saying you're Tang Chiu Tui? Haha, you're joking, right? Seeing Dr. The serious face, he knew this was not a joke. Only then did he sit quietly and listen seriously. I can control it, from an egg to a mature body, instantly, and also make it return to its original state. You are the same, don't you wonder how long you can live? He replied, Birth, old age, sickness and death are the laws of nature. If there is birth, there will naturally be death. I have no regrets in this life. As for longevity, I think it should follow nature. After listening to this, Mr. Lee found that this old man How Chow Min was truly unique. Old How, I'm serious, I have a longevity club and I want to invite a seasoned ecologist to work for us. The main job is to create a completely new microscopic vision with Dr. The. One of the long-term goals of the Longevity Club is to create a micro-world like the universe and create this Earth with the participation of talented scientists like Dr. The and Professor Antony. The theory has been formed and it's time to implement the Genesis plan. I want to invite you to be in charge of researching and considering the ecological environment plan of the miniature world. This ecological environment must be as perfect as the real world, the connection between food chains with each other. All food chains must bring the most convenience for human evolution. Ecologists create the world, geneticists create life, and I am the one who controls time. I will do everything by myself to promote formation and join us. You will have the opportunity to create a new world yourself. Are you willing? How Chow Men replied, My main research field is plant ecology. Animal ecology is self-questioning conscience. My level is still not enough, but if I can personally restore the evolutionary process of the Earth's ecosystem, observe the natural development and evolution of everything, that scene I want to witness a bit. Hearing this, Dr. The hesitated and asked Mr. Lee, Sir, is the research room a secret base? Can't Mr. Lee say no problem? Old Hao here does not accept time gifts, then I should also show some sincerity. The scene shifted to the technology high zone. Ms. Du said, "Sir, everything is ready. Thank you for your hard work, Ms. Du. I also made a temporary decision, so what do you want this time?" Before she finished speaking, Old Hao's voice rang out, "Wait a minute." He ran in, looked at Ms. Du's row of goods, then said, "Hey, she's also your person, isn't she?" Mr. Lee replied, "The Longevity Club is constantly recruiting talents. In the future, there will be many people with common aspirations joining." Hearing this, he looked at Dr. The. First, it was Tang Chiutui who died and came back to life, then it was Ms. Du. The organization can bring these two people back into the world. What kind of existence is it? Ms. Du greeted him and invited him over where Old Hao's laboratory was in front. When he saw the scene in front of him, Old Hao had to exclaim, "Oh, this place is really big. He spends money like that. Does his family know?" "As far as I know, everyone here is Mr. Lee's talent. He doesn't start a business, the most important thing for him is talent. No matter how difficult the request is, it must be achieved." The old man thought to himself, unexpectedly, there is such an advanced laboratory in the country. This kid seems to know a lot, that's good. Frankly speaking, there are many kinds of flowers and grasses in that large room, all of which are leftovers from foreigners. Right? Old man, there are some things that can't be judged by appearance. We have simulated outdoor light, humidity, and wind speed as much as possible. This place is a miniature version of the world's ecological model, which is not too much to say. The most important part is to invite you to do it yourself. Mr. Lee took out his watch, accelerated time by 1,000 times, and accelerated the growth time of cucumbers and blooming time. The old man was surprised to see this. They are growing, which is extraordinary. The naked eye can see the growth. When I saw that cicada, I was half believing and half doubting. Now, if this forest can be amplified to a continent or even the whole world, it is indeed a rebirth of the world's ecology and solves the world's ecological problems from the beginning. My youth has returned. Looking at him like this made Mr. Lee and Ms. Du speechless. They comforted themselves, "It's okay, it's okay. He is just like that. Earlier, you said that creating a world requires someone. Right?" "Yes, it's an ecologist, old man." "Oh, that's me then, haha." Later on, Mr. Lee handed the contract to the old man and said, "Sign it, you are officially the 7th member of the Longevity Club. As long as you contribute to the club, you can earn personal accumulation points to exchange for lifespan. Although you don't ask for it, your body is the capital of revolution. I don't want you to regret it in the end. You are about to take over a big project there." The old man signed the contract and said, "Okay, I understand now." At this time, Mr. Lee used his ability on the old man and said this is an advance payment. The old man felt amazing in his body, he was no longer tired, his waist and leg pain were gone too. Before he could recover from his surprise, Mr. Lee continued, "Old man, we are now family." The old man thought, is this the special treatment for employees in the club? Ms. Du spoke up, "The Longevity Club is still in its expansion phase, it's not suitable for public knowledge yet. Your video blogger job will have to end here, you need to get out of public sight. We will arrange everything for you later on." Then the old man opened up. "I understand that retirement life is extremely boring, the only person in the house who can chat with me is my nanny, but she doesn't understand anything about ecology at all. So I went online to live stream and tell stories to kids, but now I have a new world to plan, so I have nothing to regret. If that's the case, then old man, you can start as soon as possible, a miniature version of the world's ecological environment, haha, I can't wait." "Mr. Lee, what is your special view on this sand thing?" Mr. Lee replied, "I'm not very technical, but everything is difficult at the beginning. It may be a rough world, but my only purpose from beginning to end is that all creatures in this new world will exist like a granary of time. The dominant creatures of this world need to have at least human intelligence, strong reproductive ability, and longer lifespan. Only creatures with lower intelligence can trade with me, and they must try their best to simulate the causes and environment of extinct creatures on Earth, to continuously screen out suitable lives naturally. If this plan is implemented, even if it is a miniature world, it is ultimately a world. There are lives in it. However, this thinking is just the most rational and cruel ecological thinking. In our world, there are many unexplainable things in the world, not desert sand. Hearing Mr. Lee say this, the old man thought to himself, the thinking of this young man named Luke has surpassed ordinary people. The person who created all these things with time has become the creator of that world. Then the old man said, what I do is detailed reasoning about the reproduction and evolution of this world, stop reasonable characters, and record the birth of a civilization. Mr. Lee turned to ask, what about you, old man? Can my idea work? After hearing this question, the old man continued to imagine when the meteorite fell to the earth and caused many creatures to become extinct. Although we can perfectly simulate the plant ecosystem of some climates in this laboratory, if the goal is a planet, the location and environmental requirements will be very harsh. So do you have any suggestions? To have a perfect ecological environment requires a larger place than this laboratory, Mr. Lee thought in his head. What he said was not wrong. Even if it is a miniature model, creating a complete world based on a laboratory is indeed a bit sloppy. Mr. Lee turned to Ms. Du and said, Ms. Du, tell our people to go exploring. As long as there is a suitable place, no matter how much money it costs. Yes, I understand. Oh yes, how about that? I have always kept in touch with Mr. Vin's family. A few days ago, Mr. Vin's father and Mr. Vin Chi Koan personally went to Country Tea and prepared to meet with the king of Country Tea named Ma Kai Thap. On the plane, Vin's family was talking to each other. Ma Kai Thap is extremely power-hungry. How confident are you this time? Vin's father replied, this is why I chose him. All generations of kings in history pursue longevity and sit on power for countless years. We are here to give longevity. It's not difficult for him to join us. The difficulty lies in how to get this king to follow us home. This time I brought all his physical reports from illness to health. The truth is right in front of him and he will be moved. We just hope so, Vin's father thought. Whether Mr. Lee's overseas base has a city depends on this time at the palace of the Emperor of Country Tea. Vin's father got out of the car. The last time I came here I was still a child. Haha. There was a voice coming from Vin's house owner next to him saying that he seemed very healthy. Then they shook hands with Vin's father to congratulate him on his ascension to power. You and your father are alike, both are decisive leaders. My old predecessor, we have to talk for a long time this time. My father has always highly regarded you. You always bring countless orders and profitable items, Vin's father humbly said. Your Majesty is too kind. Then the two went to the living room to chat slowly. Vin's father realized that he had a different purpose for coming. This is the best bird's nest here. Vin's father tasted it, it's very good for the body. The bird's nest of Tay Country is famous all over the world. I'm lucky to eat today. I heard that my predecessor was sick before, I was really worried. But I just ascended to the throne and was busy with affairs. People our age need to take good care of our bodies. Scratching the itch, Vin's father spoke up at this time. Your Majesty, how do you see my current state? Looking at Vin's father's outfit, the king also realized that there was indeed a problem. With a glance, he had discovered it. For an old man like him, his current state is a bit too good. Not letting the king think further, Vin's father continued to say, people live for decades, but they can't eat all the delicacies. Vin's old predecessor, this time you came here is probably for business, right? Vin's father replied, "Your Majesty indeed has sharp eyes. This time I came to give your Majesty a gift." The meaning of the predecessor is that someone should bring things to show your Majesty. The man who came with him brought documents to the king. After reading it, he was shocked. "Who is he, your Majesty? This is the way to live forever. You try to listen a little." After listening to Vin's father from beginning to end, the king probably understood something. Vin's father continued, "I once spent a lot of money to buy a year of life to escape death. Then, in order to continue developing the family, I bought the second year again. But this transaction is absolutely profitable because life is always precious. That's because you can't compare the value of life with money." The old king also thought that this was not wrong. The value of longevity was equivalent to the continuation of interests. Then he stood up and said, "He created a longevity club? My private doctor will give you a comprehensive checkup once. It seems that unscientific theories can only be verified by scientific means, so if this is true, I will personally go to heaven and meet Mr. Lee. I hope this is not a joke." As for the longevity club side, looking at Hao Lao's contract table, Mr. Lee thought that Hao Chao Men was a calm scholar who was good at observing and always recorded everything he was curious about. The highest scholar of mankind has 10 points of ability at present. Let your imagination be rich and one day you will be able to design the highest ecological environment system and make those in charge of the ecological plan decide to live forever. Maybe one day in the future there will be countless miniature worlds and by then you can use the world as a chessboard and all beings will be your chess pieces.